Anti-Afro Svengalis, I wanted to address the situation with chats. And this has been a theme that has gone on for, as we know, quite some time. There is a big chunk of the situation that is missing or that remains unaddressed. This has to do with when you go to a chat and you see that someone has blocked you. Let me use myself as an example. And I'm going to be specific. I'm going to use Smoke, I'm going to use Remix as two examples. I go over to their chat. Gerald might go over to their chat. And we're just doing our thing. We have blocked these demons and these ingrates and these freaks and these backstabbers and these troublemakers and descriptors, all under the demonic umbrella, because we don't want to have a conversation with them. The goal is to keep the disruption down so the host can run a live stream. But that's not good enough. These subjects that are blocked get very angry about that, although they characterize us as irrelevant. But here's the big chunk that's missing. That's the 50-ton red, green, brown, and astral bright yellow elephant in the center of the room. If you have blocked someone, you can't see their comments, and they can't see your comments. The host can see everyone's comments. So what ends up happening? These comments continue to be sent, and they're directed towards me, or they're directed towards Rev G, and they're citing the host in the mix. What do you think any host that has any self-respect is going to do? I imagine the host is not going to be happy, because what you're doing, you're harassing the host. We don't even see your damn messages. You're attempting to place pressure on the host to take a side. When a host is saying everyone is welcome here, ops are welcome here, anybody can catch the link, and these subjects decide to set upon the host, harassing the host about me and Rev G. There is no special treatment that we have ever received. We aren't the ones harassing the host. We aren't the one leaving messages with the host, haranguing and badgering the host to say or do anything. These demons do that. Or others who really are highly invested in trying to place themselves in a position to be marqueed on these channels. Smoke already had a situation set up like that. He decides not to have a situation where he has co-host. Remix, I don't recall Remix having co-hosts. People will come up on the panel and, talk for a long time. How Remix wants to run his channel is how Remix runs his channel. It is my belief it was a goal to try to replicate what Smoke had on his channel. But in order to do that, you got to move me and Rev G out of the way. This is the perception, although it's false. It's a fallacy. There is no reason why anyone who wants to come over to Remix's page can't come to Remix's page if he is the focus, because the host is the focus. The host should be the focus of the channel. It shouldn't be those that you want to try to get at. So I can definitely see why it would be extremely irritating, especially when these subjects ask the same question over and over and over again. You're getting paid. How much you getting paid? You're AFW. Are you AFW? ... The same 4 or 5 questions over and over and over again. And the goal is to harass and badger and pressure the host into doing something other than what the host is doing. Here's the bizarre part. There are other people in the chat. So it's doubly disrespectful to the entire chat to come over to a channel specifically to try to get at those who have you blocked. This doesn't prevent people from talking about a topic. Say a topic comes up and someone that's blocked is the topic of an incident and it's being discussed. That is not the same thing as trying to communicate with those who you know have blocked you, or you blocked them, however you want to put it. So when these subjects can't get to me, because you're not going to get to me, there's nothing you can say or do to me that's going to pull me off and go just freak out, screaming and hollering, violating federal laws, threatening people, harassing families who aren't on the internet, talking about their kids. You're not going to get me to replicate your conduct. They continue to do this. When they can't get to me, they try to go to Rev G. They go down the line. When this is all failed, now the only person left is the host. Smoke and Remix. I'm speaking specifically about them. And more recently, this happened with Remix. Prior to that, I'd say about 2 months ago, they tried this with the Smoke. Came over to the chat. I'm just there, just communicating with the host. And here come these freaks harassing Smoke. And he warned them to stop. Quit coming over here asking me about if I'm AFW. Quit asking me if I'm getting paid. They kept doing it and kept making all these smart ass. You're out of here. Who the hell is going to put up with that? Who with self-respect would put up being harassed and harangued and badgered over and over again? I don't think anybody with self-respect would do anything like that. So now they move over to Remix's channel, and now they're using these troll accounts. Then they start making comments in other spaces. And you all know the vast majority of people in and around the Umar Johnson sector do not appreciate somebody going off to another space and talking shit about them, especially if they say they rock with you. They don't want to come over to the channel and grab the link and address. But to continue to harass someone and talk shit about them and lie and say they're getting paid all this money and this and that, you deserve to be dragged to the extent the person feels they need to drag you, because it's disrespectful, it's abusive, it's badgering, and everybody's not going to have the same reaction. Me, I'm just going to block it out. I don't care what these freaks have to say about me. That doesn't make it right or wrong if someone else decides to have another reaction to it. And what is driving this whole streak of anger that's been festering? The pot shots, the snide comments, the wild assumptions about Remix, me specifically paying Remix. I mean, what would I be paying Remix to do? That's the part I don't even understand. What is a payment supposed to be for? Well, we already talked about the supposed me paying people to go after others who they're already talking about, which doesn't make any sense. So who was Remix going after? Remix responded to someone who was talking shit about him. What does it have to do with me? And how would I be paying Remix to defend himself? This is the same crap that Dumpsy says about Taz. When Dumpsy's been talking about Nyla and Taz, lying on them for 5 years, but I have to pay Taz to defend his wife? Most of the shit that Dumpsy says about Taz, he doesn't even pay attention. When he decides he wants to say something, he's going to say something and defend his wife. I don't know where it comes in that he needs my money to do that. It's just as ridiculous as Remix needing money to defend himself. Himself. Not defending me. Remix is defending himself because it's his channel, his platform, and him personally coming under attack. And what's the alternative? Well, the alternative is Remix, you better follow somebody's commands. And if you don't follow somebody's commands, this is when they start taking the pot shots at you. And this is what happened. Again, everybody has a different response. You can't predict how anybody is going to react to insults, to disrespect. Like I said before, most of the time I'm going to disregard it because I don't see it in any way relevant. It doesn't make me any less or more than anyone else who decides they're not going to ignore it. You just take your chances talking shit about others. And this is the most profound reality about those who talk the most shit about others unprovoked. They cannot tolerate any amount being brought back to them. And we've seen this because they got confronted straight on, head on, and they start talking about someone else's family. And then they start bringing up a supposed criminal record, which doesn't make any sense if the person talking is a convicted felon. How is that logical? It's not logical. I think it's also interesting that this is the mainstay that IAAS pays everybody. There's nothing else that can be said. So this is what they want to ride with. Well, if that is so easy, if it's about just paying, well, why don't you pay them? Everybody else is swimming money around. If you think it's that easy, start paying the man money and expect him to do what you want him to do. We all know it's a cop out. It's a representation of being frustrated at failing to be able to force people to act upon your command. We are not on a freaking slave plantation. This is one of my biggest issues with that sector. They think that they actually have the right to command others to act independently of what their decisions are. And the commands have nothing to do with those who are issuing the commands. The commands have everything to do with how they think they should be treating other people. What business is it of theirs how Remix treats anybody else? But they seem to think they have a right to rule over this man, and he had enough of it. Obviously, you're seeing it play out. But let me talk about the opposite of what you've seen with Remix and the Smoke, simply setting a boundary, which mature adult men should be able to do. You've got slander and you've got propane. Extreme difficulty with setting boundaries. You have slander hiding behind this extortion scheme so he doesn't have to confront issues on his panel. And then you had propane who completely caved. The same approach was used with propane that was used with Remix and Smoke. The badgering, the harassment, the haranguing, the constant feeling of the same questions over and over. And propane swore up and down his panel was neutral. Slander swore up and down his panel was neutral. And they both caved in different ways. Propane worked harder and harder to try to appease the demons that he wasn't taking money from me, but they continued to harass him and he caved instead of telling him to get the hell on somewhere because they were disrespecting him. That's the situation. It ain't got shit to do with me. You caved to these demons because you couldn't tell them to take a hike when they're harassing you. Same with you, slander. You try to get money out of the situation with this extortion scheme because you can't handle the heat when somebody was saying to you, oh, you're AFW, are you taking money? Okay, I can just get the person out of here if they're talking about that. I don't have to deal with it. Or they don't want to hear anybody else speaking the truth. And you don't want to intervene, but you want Stargate to be sweet on you and you're letting people bash her. You can't have it all ways. I think it's cowardly when you can't stand up to folks who are harassing you, who are haranguing you, who are pestering you, who are falsely accusing you, and you consider these subjects to be rocking with you and you want to be around. Well, it's their decision, how they want to rock, how they want to roll, but they don't have respect for the way other people rock and roll on their own channels. They expect others to respond to their beck and call. They want to beckon you and you better do what they say. If not, they're going to start talking shit about you. If you want the smoke, you can start acting like you can talk shit about folks. Yes, I'm going to talk shit about you. And then when you come at me, I'm going to talk about somebody else's family and bring up the fact that you have a criminal record and so do I, but I'm a convicted felon. Okay. I have a lot more I could say about this, and I for sure will do that. But for now, this is just a preliminary perspective that I have about what just went down. Folks, you know I have more coming your way. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer beware.